All right. Well, welcome to another episode of the Viking Press Pass. And joining me today from the softball team, freshman catcher, Alaina Diaz. So, Alaina, thanks for connecting with me.
Hi, it's a great time. I've watched a lot of them.
Well, excited to have you on. Well, hey, let's talk a little bit just about the. Let's maybe start with Wheaton and that
Uh,
doubleheader. As I was just looking at that game, it's like obviously you guys went 2-0.
mhm,
You 24 runs, 28 hits, 7 were extra base hits, like a home run across those
mhm.
two games. Both ended in like 5 and 6 innings. So they were early wins. Like talk to me just a little bit about that Wheaton game, and how you thought, because you're early in the conference, right? You're just kind of kicking that off. Like, you know, talk to me a little bit about just the Wheaton game and your thoughts on that.
For that game, we really wanted to play our game and not play to anyone else's game. We've been talking about always keeping it that way because sometimes softball players can play at different levels and we got to keep it at ours. We came in with a lot of confidence. We knew that they were probably going to throw the pitcher of the week or they were going to try to throw us off with the slower. Um, we had a lot of good hits. We communicated a lot with that game, and our pitchers did great.
Now, when you say you communicated a lot, what do you mean by that?
When we're coming in and out of the box, no matter if we get out or get a base hit or home run like we did, we always communicate on like where the pitches are or if we have to do a slap defense or just talking to each other. So to get our mind off of whatever else we're thinking about, we always just try to play the game and every pitch is a different pitch. Like you have to restart and rethink the game every pitch.
So what type of pitches did they throw? I remember talking with Emma, and she mentioned like when you went into the Milliken game, they were throwing, I think she said low rise type
Mhm.
pitches, which they hadn't quite seen, so far this year. Did
Yeah.
Wheaton pitch something that you haven't quite seen, or I mean, kind of what's their style?
Well, they did have that pitcher of the week, so we were expecting her, but we were ready for anything. They started off with one of their slower pitchers. Our team, we don't struggle. We do struggle sometimes with slower pitching, and then we adjust. But we were ready to jump on the ball. We just had to tell ourselves to sit back. She had her pitches would kind of like drop into the zone, so we had to set up our bat higher so we could hit through the zone instead of popping up. So that was an adjustment that we made. She had a changeup that would get a couple of us, and then we finally adjusted to it. I know I think I got a base hit on a changeup, and Lord knows me and changeups don't go well together, but I sat back and drove it.
Yeah, I was gonna say. I mean, you went 2 for 4, had an RBI. I think game one, you were 1 for 3 with a pair of RBIs in game two. So, but I mean, just collectively, it was like,
Mhm.
um, you guys jumped on them, pretty quick.
Yeah,
Like,
we did.
I think they had a good hit early in that first game, but really after that, that was really about it. Seemed like he kept them, pretty much at bay,
Yeah.
afterwards. So, um, now you've got the doubleheader this weekend, with
Mhm.
Whitewater. They've split with North Central and Wesleyan recently. I think they're playing Elmhurst today. What do you know much about Wheaton? Do you know much about the team at all? Or excuse me, about
About we
Whitewater?
oh, what? We always watch games, try to look in the past and see what they do against certain hitters. We're always doing stuff like that, but we try not to get in our head too much because we know every game's different. So we have to just be ourselves and play our game, like I said earlier on. Um, it's kind of just a mentality type of game. Softball's really difficult in that perspective, but we really just take one pitch at a time because every the pitcher might not be on and just might be throwing really meatballs to us.
Yeah. Do you know much about Whitewater, like in terms of like, how they like to play or pitch or, hit or how like they set up their defense or, I don't know how much time between because I mean, you've played a ton of games so far this year and you still have 22 left to go, 11
Yeah.
double headers. So, I don't know
Yeah.
how much time in between those double headers, like, do you get to scout or, how much does like the coaching staff kind of scout and what do they like supply to you and the team?
Coach John and Coach Sarah do a really good job on scouting. Coach John usually sets up stats in our dugout and we read off those, so I know what to throw to people and like certain shifts. Like we'll do a slapping shift if we know she's only hitting to the left side or if she's hitting to the right side. He sends us videos to watch and we're always watching those. I know Whitewater is kind of a faster paced team, so we have to slow our game down so we can stay on our pace instead of their pace.
Yeah. Yeah, I was always curious just how much, there is as much prep as there is when you're constantly playing. It's like it's
Yeah.
kind of hard at some point. You just want to get a rhythm, right? And like
Mhm.
baseball, softball is all about getting a good rhythm, riding that wave when you can. And I mean, you're riding a pretty darn good wave right now at the top of the
Yeah, we are.
CCIW. I mean, 4-2 in the conference, 15-3 overall, and it's like the teams that are. I mean, Wesleyan hasn't been in conference play yet, but when you think about like who's at the top, Augie, Carthage, that's who you expected.
Mhm.
And then once Wesleyan, I think, gets into conference play, it's like you kind of expect that as well with North Central. So, um,
Mhm.
and when Augie was picked in the coaches preseason poll to be fourth, I don't think they really truly knew what the team had in some of the
Yeah.
incoming freshmen, and then how the rest of the team has really performed. Like, um, what was like your expectations coming in as like your first year as a freshman, and what's been maybe like some aha moments or you know how has like the first year lived up to those expectations or maybe been a little bit different?
I've played for Coach John before, so I know he likes to keep it a tight ship and he has that winning mentality. We hate losing more than we love winning. I was ready to show off my ability. I knew I'd have to fight for my spot. It's every day you fight for your spot, you have to show off what you know and what you can do. I think our incoming freshman class was a really good class. We have some batters, slappers, some really good pitchers. We all are all the way around a pretty good class. I knew we all had to fight for our spots because the classes that were before us are amazing. They are such hard workers. I know they've gone through so many coaches changes, but Coach Sean really put everything together.
So, I mean, you coming in for your first year, like, what were some of the things that, you have like learned or picked up on or developed that, some of the folks that are seniors and juniors that have kind of passed down to you, whether it's, how you think about the game, how you approach the game, how you approach practice. Is there anything that you've, you know, kind of a new tool you've put in your toolbox that maybe you didn't have coming in, to your freshman year?
The seniors really make sure that everyone has fun. We got at the end of the day, we got to remember this is a game and we're having fun and we can't stress about it. So they help me out with that because sometimes I stress about the game or the past game I just had, but you got to realize it's a game at the end of the day, you win or lose and you have your teammates around you to have fun.
Absolutely. Sometimes you just gotta let the past be the past because you're not gonna change it at this point.
Yeah.
So kind of
Yeah.
move forward, right? Um,
Mhm.
has there been like a different like mental approach? I mean, 'cause you've played at a high level, travel ball, high
Mhm.
school, coming into this year. So I don't think it's necessarily the pressure of playing in big situations or big games or against some of the best talent. Um,
Yeah.
but from a mental perspective, has there been anything that um, you've had to kind of focus on or think about or work on, as you go into this year?
I've really had to work on just keeping my mentality good because if you have a bad mentality, you can't really do much with it and you get in your head a lot. So I've really worked on keeping my mentality good and I've just been working on fighting for my position every single time. Even practice, you got to fight for it. I I've been working on my throwdowns a lot. I I will give it to myself. I have a good throwdown, but I try to work on it every single time, working on trying to get my transfer faster or watching myself throw down to maybe take off that 0.01 second to get a little bit faster.
Absolutely. Yeah, because I mean, there's some of these. I was just looking at the CCIW, and it's like, well, Carthage has, was it Carrie Rutledge? I think is her name. She has one of the. I mean, she's like I don't know, 24, 25 steals or something like that, like something crazy. So there's going to be some of
Mhm.
these, athletes that are going to be, super standouts, and it's like they can certainly change a game, but a great
Yeah.
counterbalance to that is a strong catcher who
Mhm.
one can help manage a game, but two can I help, second guess that runner, whether or not they're going to take
Yeah.
off and try and take an extra base. Um,
Yeah.
Now, how do you like to, I was talking to, Michael Aragon and Alex Simon on the baseball team about like how they set up and how they catch in different positions. Um, is there a particular like position you like to set up in? Like one of the things I was talking to Alex Simon about, I was like, it was a unique stat this year that like an opening day in the majors, every single catcher worked from a knee down position, which was
Mhm.
unique. So as you think about like, softball, in different ways that you set up, is there one that you like to be, you feel more comfortable in, you feel like you're more dangerous in, if there's runners in
Mhm.
position, runners on base, like tell me a little bit about just how you like to kind of set up and approach the catching position.
Okay. I usually start in my regular squat to give the sign. I always cover it up so the other coaches can't see it, and I always put my left knee down. I start with giving my pitcher a target, and then I put my glove down to work around the ball to meet it and not beat it. I always preach this to the kids I teach because if you beat the ball, you're gonna knock it every way. And then I just have a mentality of if someone's on base, they're gonna steal, so I'm always ready no matter what.
So you mentioned the kids you teach. Tell me about that.
I've been teaching, I think, since 2021. I've had roughly 10 students. I've kept a few, but some have gone to college or high school. I really like working with the kids because you can see how hard they work and where they want to go. And I always preach you got to work hard to get where you want. Um, I always teach them, like I said, it's a game. At the end of the day, you have to have fun with it. And then I teach younger kids, so I try to like keep them as healthy as possible. So I tell them to keep their regular squat with both knees up. And then later on I'll teach them to work with their knee down just because I want their hips to be good and play as long as possible.
Yeah. No, I mean, when you're working with little kids, like what age are you talking about?
I work with anywhere between 9 and 17.
So those kids that are like, 9, 10 years old,
Mhm.
and selfishly, I'm asking you this because I have, an 8 and 9 year old.
Yeah.
What are some of the things that you like to focus on, with kids right out of the gate?
Right now, I like working on like technique because if you don't have the technique, then you don't have anything. You have to start off with the really basics. I usually start like my very first lesson I do with each student is working on framing, dropping blocks, and getting in your throwdown position because with your throwdowns, you have to stay low to the ground so it doesn't waste as much time. And I work on framing, like framing around the world.
Now you said, meet it, don't beat it. When you're talking about
Mhm.
that, what do you mean by that?
So as a catcher, you have to see where the ball is coming in. If it's a drop ball, it's going to drop at a certain angle. So you want to thumb up and stay through the ball. And if you beat it there, then it can drop. Softball's a really quick game, so you have to be prepared for anything. So, like I said, I keep my glove on the ground and then I can move my elbow any way to meet the ball.
Got it. Yeah, that's what's unique, right, about softball. It's like, the delivery, it's like you have rise, you can drop it, you can do a lot of different things that, with that ball
Yeah.
that you can't do with the baseball. So that's cool. I didn't realize that, you've, kind of been coaching with kids. And do you only
Mm.
mostly stay within, like, Moline or
I taught someone from Sherrard. I stay around the Quad Cities. I usually keep I can go anywhere from Sherrard to Orion. Anywhere that if they can meet, I'll meet them.
how do you like, so I mean, how do you get the word out about kind of working with you?
Well, I started off with my old hitting coach. He had a facility for me, and he would always hype me up to the little
Mhm.
kids, and then their parents would see that, and people would come to my games, and then they'd ask for lessons. So I was always willing to do it because I played softball for so long. I want to share my knowledge with little ones so they can get super far, make it to college because making it to college for a college sport is hard as it is. So trying to help
Mhm.
people out in any way.
Well, and it's always, a lot of times, for kids, it's like, a sport is a good outlet for, just kind of development and growth and building leadership skills and some of those things. And so that's cool. That's pretty awesome.
Yeah.
So, anybody who's watching or listening, like, you know who to go get some coaching
Yeah.
tips or catching tips here. So, um, well, hey, I want to transition to what's, in your name title there. It's like player of the year watch list. Like,
Yeah.
and for those that maybe don't know, there's a total of 119 student athletes across the country that were named to this list. And it's pitchers and players, of the year. That was what I think last Thursday, I believe that was maybe released. So you were one of 15 within Region 8, just one of 9 freshmen in the entire country. So, like, when I saw that, I was super excited. I think it's great. I was
Yeah.
super happy for you, obviously. But what was your kind of initial reaction, when that was announced?
We were on the bus. It was my birthday, so we were heading back from I think I'm gonna say this wrong, Buena Vista. It was a 4.5 hour ride there, 4.5 back. Coach John was trying to talk to us. I couldn't really hear, so I was like, "What is he saying?" And then they all started cheering. I was like, "Why? What are we cheering for?" And they were like, "You're on the watch list for a D3 Player of the Year." I was like, "Oh my god!" Like I jumped. I was so excited. I was cheering too. I because it kind of hit me. I was like, "Is that really what he said, or are you guys pranking me?" But
Yeah.
it was a great birthday present. It was a great birthday present.
Well, that's awesome. I think it's when I think about stuff like that, it's like, it's a culmination of, all the obviously blood, sweat, and tears and hard work you've put into it. And
Yeah.
then, I think it really kind of complements, the team and, how well the Vikings are doing. And the simple fact that there's a lot of eyes, on this team,
Mhm.
um, which should scare Whitewater when they come in
Yeah.
here on Saturday. Um, so what about your family? I mean, when they heard that, what was their reaction?
They were so excited. I called my mom and dad instantly. They were cheering. I FaceTimed them. They were jumping up and down. My dad was so excited. My dad and mom are my biggest fans. They were super excited. And then I called my sister that lives in Washington, D.C., and she was so excited, even though she can't watch me in person. She know how hard it's been throughout the years with softball and like the challenges and up and downs I've been through. So everyone is super excited. Even my brother, he's me and him get into arguments, but he was so excited for me also. They were all really excited. My grandma was excited. Everyone was congratulating me.
Well, I think regardless of whatever happens at the end of the day,
Yeah.
the fact of, like, the recognition, I think is awesome. I was going
Yeah.
back and looking, like, when was the last time we had some type of, like, national recognition on the softball team? And I think it was like 2010 maybe. So it's been a
Ooh.
hot minute. Um,
Yeah.
but I think they were maybe like All Americans or something like that. But no, that's amazing. Now, is your brother here still locally then?
Yeah, he goes to Moline High School. He's a junior this year. Yeah.
Okay. And so your sister lives in DC. Now, does she get a
Mhm.
chance to like watch and stream the games?
Yeah, sometimes she'll watch on Game Changer, but she works a lot, so she's been trying to catch up as much. Or I'll FaceTime her and let her know how the game went.
Yeah. Yeah, that's awesome. They I know, installing the new like huddle cameras this year was awesome. That was a nice major
Mhm.
upgrade and really needed. I tell you what, I was driving home um after work Wednesday, and it was, I don't know, maybe the third inning or so, fourth inning. And I couldn't hear. So I'm in the car. I had it streaming and listening. I had it all the way up, and I'm like, I cannot hear because I think was it Kellen King and Sylvester Brady? I think is his name
Yeah,
that do it.
I think so.
Um, and I'm like, I cannot absolutely hear him, and I didn't have Kellen's number, so I text Trevor Jassart, and I was like, hey, can't really hear it, and so we got to play with the levels a little bit, and so he goes, "Oh, all right. Yep, our level was like halfway down. Thanks for letting me know." And as soon as it hit, like it like blew the speakers out of my car, and like it scared the crap out of me. So
Yeah.
I was like, he's like, "Is it good?" I was like, "Oh yeah, it's good." I think about half the anybody who was watching probably got blown out of their seat and reminded me of like
Yeah.
Michael J. Fox at, Back to the Future when he hit the guitar in front of that. It got blown away. I was like,
Yeah.
that's literally how I felt. Um, but well, I was thinking about like the top four spots in this batting order. I mean, generally it's like, Alexis Duke in the leadoff, then like
Mhm.
Mackenzie, Stance, you, and Emma Evans.
Mhm.
And I was looking at just that four, not the rest of the team at all, but it's like 57 RBIs, 6 home runs, 19 doubles, 58 runs, like great batting
Mhm.
averages, insane OPS, like averaging like 1.1 and some change. Like the team as a whole is batting 362 with an OPS of 926. I mean, like, come on, this is ridiculous. Like
Yeah.
you guys are killing it.
Mhm.
Like, I mean, how do you think about like where the Vikings are at in terms of like their approach at the plate, and just how successful, the offense, has been this year.
I think we're doing great. We're killing it. We all have the mentality to get it on base. Our mentality is to get a base hit because base hits lead to runs and runs one to winning. So we always try to get on base, either if it's a walk, hit by pitch, or just a home run. I mean, we all have been working on our mentality at the plate because hitting is one of the difficult parts of softball because of all the different movements. So we always try to just get a base hit, try to keep it simple.
Absolutely. Yeah, I mean, it's like 12th in scoring, 17th in on base percentage. This is national rankings according to like the NC2A stats. 16th in RBIs per game, 24th in batting average. It's like, how would you characterize like um the approach at the plate? Like, do you enjoy being are you looking for more like, hey, I'm trying to get hard contact, or are you focusing more on like power, trying to hit like certain spots, on the field? Like, how would you kind of characterize like your approach offensively, or is it situational?
I'm always look I'm always looking for hard contact because hard contact, no matter what, will most likely the fielder will make a mistake if it's a hard ground ball or if it's a line drive, they might drop it. But in situations where there's a runner on first or second, I always try to hit it to the right side of the field so they can advance on the bases. Um, I've been just trying to hit hard line drives, not trying to overdo it and try to hit a home run, just base hits.
Absolutely. So, I mean, you know, how exciting is it really for this team, like so early on, just to see the success that that you're having, where you're at in not only in the conference, but like just you've had a lot of shortened games, because offensively, you're doing really well. Defensively, making a lot of great plays, great pitching, great hitting. Like, what's the excitement like just on the team right now, and where the team is at and how you're performing?
We are so excited. We're probably the most chaotic team in the dugout. We try to keep it light and fun. That's probably why your speakers blew. We try to do the most outrageous cheers to cheer each other up. Um, we always try to have fun. Like that's the main point of the game, to have fun. We always remind each other of that. But we know we have to be serious in some situations and think the game like we all know how to do. Um, like you said, our offense and defense have been killing it. Our pitchers, Lauren Coster and McKaylin, have been killing it. Um, our fielders have been making diving catches, great plays, and then obviously our lineup's killing it with I don't even know how many runs we have, but so many runs compared to past years.
Yeah, yeah, it's well, and I think it's I think what's great, it's like it's a really healthy mix of not only, seniors, juniors, but freshmen and sophomore that are playing, critical innings, contributing at a high
Mhm.
level. Um, Depth, is, I think is a strong suit as well. Um, so especially in those double headers, like, we'll definitely find like, especially in the second game or sometimes in the first game, you'll see, a lot of substitutions will come in, and it's like the team doesn't miss a beat, regardless of
No.
who's in and where you're at. So I think that's like, that's pretty darn key.
Mhm.
Now, behind the plate as a catcher, like, um, how did you ultimately, like, settle on becoming a catcher growing up?
So we're gonna start with Dad's Club. For Dad's Club, I was a pitcher and a catcher, and my parents wanted me to choose one or the other because it's kind of hard being a pitcher or a catcher. And I had an arm, so I really wanted to be a catcher. Originally, I was a third baseman, and then I transitioned into being a catcher. Catching is such a fun game because you always get the ball no matter what. You're like the highlight of the game. Like you always get the ball. You control the game because if the umpire keeps calling balls, you got to fix something. So it's always in your hands. So I kind of like the pressure of this is on you. You got to do this. You got to fix what you're doing wrong. And it kind of, I like pressure situations.
Now, um, as a catcher, like, are you calling the game in terms of pitching, or how are you kinda relaying how you're kind of attacking each pitch? What's the pitch selection? How does that communication kinda happen?
So I call the games and I'm always thinking ahead to the next batter. Um, I've called games for my travel ball teams. I always have to like have the batter mentality, but also the umpire mentality. So it's kind of like a mixture. So because some umpires call high, so maybe I'll call a rise ball in if the batter can't hit the inside pitch, or a changeup outside if I know they can't lay off changeups. You just have to constantly like be reading the batters where they're at in the batter box and how well they've been doing in pass at backs. Because if they're one to swing at the first pitch constantly early, I'll throw a changeup. Or if they're late on the pitch, then I'll jam them in the hands and make it hurt.
Yeah. Yeah, how do you kind of influence when you have an umpire that's either calling, a really tight strikeouts, or it's like sometimes they're loose off the plate and you're like, well, that's totally,
Mhm.
a ball, but it's still going to be a strike. Like, how do you kind of balance that, and work with the umpire? Like, do you ever like communicate with the umpire? Like, hey, you got that a little bit outside up. All right, I'm going to pull that one in a little bit. Like, do you ever have any conversations kind of with them at all?
The umpires usually talk to me, and I always like try to make jokes with them because I mean they're having fun too doing what they do. So I usually read what the umpire is calling. Like the first inning, I'll see where they're calling it, and then I'll relay to our hitters so they know. But I always keep it in the back of my head, like he's calling that line. Let's use that line to our advantage. Or if he's calling really low, I'll call drop balls or changeups to get that strike.
Do you ever like do you ever like have a ever say something like, nope, that was a strike all day long? Like, do you ever give them like direct feedback?
Yeah, sometimes. Sometimes I get a little sassy behind the plate. I'm like, "Great pitch, low. You're killing it. That was perfect." And then I'm like, "Oh, I probably shouldn't have said that, but it's okay because usually the umpire's messing around with me too. So they all know it's jokes and it's part of the game."
Yeah. Um yeah, it's one of those things like where sometimes you just think about like I hate I've been I don't particularly like when umpires like begin to like make the game a little bit more about them and interject themselves into it. It's like I kind of like
Yeah.
when they're fading to the back, let the game play a little
Mhm.
bit, like, you know, but umpires, everyone has their own personality. So,
Yeah. I get that
um
completely. I've seen so many across the years.
I can imagine. I can like what was ever like have you ever had like a situation with an umpire where you were just like frustrated and like kind of argued with them, or have you ever gotten that frustrated at some point?
Yes, not to the point where I'm arguing, but to the point where I'm just like, it's a good thing I'm not mic'd up right now because I need to take a breath. But I usually try to like put myself in their perspective. They have so many eyes on them. Like I know it's hard, but sometimes it's like, dude, that was right down the plate. Come on. Or it's in the dirt and you're calling it a strike on me as a batter. I'm like, you didn't give me that call last inning when I was catching. So it's just like you have to laugh to yourself. Otherwise, you're probably gonna lose it. So you just
Yeah.
gotta chuckle every now and then.
I mean, at the end of the day, it's a game, right? But you're all there to
Yeah.
win. At the end of the day, you're there to win as
Yeah.
well. So, all right. So I'm gonna flash a picture up. And
Okay.
I want some. I want some. There's got to be a good backstory behind this. So,
Okay.
so I really want to know what's the Queen of the Diamond? Like, what is this? Because I thought this was a cool picture. This was like October, I think, in fall.
Yeah. It was. So we played Friday Night Lights. So we started with two different teams, and they would always get mixed up because whoever was leading in points would be the captains. So I was catching. I think I caught almost every game, and each game was 9 innings because we had three catchers at the time. So we try to rotate, but it would always be a little uneven. So I was catching most of the 9 innings, but I ended up winning it all, and I was so excited as a freshman. I was like, "Yes, finally, let's go." Because as a freshman, you're a little timid to come in. Obviously, the girls, they love us. We love them, but you always have that little fear that you're not going to be liked or something like that. But it was so fun because everyone was hyping me up and I was like, "I'm going to make a goofy pose out of this." Like, I have it above my locker in the locker room right now.
So how do you become like the Queen of the Diamond? Like, is there like points base? Is it like that you're tracking, throughout the game? Like, how do you ultimately get that decision on who's the winner?
So, it is point based. If you got a single, it would be 10 points, double 20, triple 30, home run 40. And then fielding, if you made a mistake, you might have gotten points taken off, or if you made a great play, you got points. Pitchers got points taken away for walks or points taken, like given for strikeouts. I believe catchers got points for throwouts. It was kind of like a math game. Like you wouldn't think of it like that, but it truly was a math game trying to keep those points high.
Hmm. Now, is there a little bit of method to that madness around how the team thinks about approaching the season and how you approach the game a little bit? Or is it just purely like, hey, we're just doing it to have fun?
It's a mixture of both because this was like it was the how do I say this? The grounds for the year. Like this is a setup to see how we're gonna play this year, and we all battled. There it was a constant back and forth between players, constantly giving them their all. Because I mean, we have 28 to 29 players, I believe, and we're all fighting for a spot. There's only 9 spots, so this was just like the start of it to see. who's going to be in the starting nine lineup.
So who's keeping the book and the score on all the points?
John would calculate it, but we had our amazing senior Allie taking she was doing game changer so people like parents could watch these Friday night lights if they're out of state or something like that.
Okay.
Um but John kept all the calculations and then he'd send it out weekly and it was usually low at the first like the one and then rose. It was pitchers before and then I slowly started creeping up and took it over.
I like it. So you got to keep that title then all year, right? Until next year.
Heck yeah. Heck yeah. And I'm taking it next year.
So you going to get another belt like the champ, the double champ?
I hope so.
Tell them
I
they
hope
better have
so.
another belt ready, right? So
Yeah.
just stack them, stack them. Um,
Mhm.
um, what do so what do you like? What do you love about being a catcher? Just enjoy about that position so much.
I love it because I control the game. I set the pace for the game. I can call timeout whenever I want and go talk to the pitcher, get them out of their head. Or I can relay to, like I said earlier, relay to the dugout where the umpire is calling it so we know what pitches to lay off. It's just really fun back there because I do have really goofy conversations with the umpires and they keep it light and funny. Um, I usually talk to the batters too. The batters are they're players at the end of the day and we're all just trying to have fun and win.
Yeah. Um, well, one of the things I was looking at is, and I kind of talked about this with every softball player, but leading up to the start of the season, they have I call them the player profiles, but it talks about like your hometown, major, role models, etc. And for you had your parents as your role model. So, you know, tell me a little bit why you have your parents and how they've been such a big impact for you.
I put my parents because they always push me. They push me. We'd always be in that yard, either throwing me picks or working on my transitions. I'd be hitting into a tee. And even after a bad game, they picked me up and we'd go work on the field to work on what I messed up on or get me ice cream afterwards. They would always they're like I said earlier,
Mhm.
they're my biggest fans. They push me. They got me to college. They're helping me with college and I couldn't do anything without them.
So, what was your path to Augie? Like, how did you ultimately decide, Augie was going to be the place you wanted to go?
Augie has always been in the mind. I love the campus, and it was just a great school. I wasn't even looking at it directly for softball, but I knew I wanted to play softball in college. I knew it had my major and what I wanted to do. And I know that, like, the setup of Augie is what I was looking for. They have that community that everyone should go for, having the fun, but also help you with your studies and stuff like that.
Hmm. Did having um, Coach Nelson, who obviously you've played for and had a good relationship. I mean, did that also kind of help influence or solidify like, yes, I really want to go there to play base or play softball now?
Yes, it did. I played for John and I went on a tour with him and it was kind of the seal for me because I knew he could take the softball program far. And he has so far. We're doing so much better than we have in past years. We're killing it. He has this mentality like I said earlier. We hate losing more than we love winning. And I like that mentality because I've kind of been like that since I was young.
Absolutely. I mean, it really seems like everybody I talk with on the softball team, it really seems like every player has developed a good, strong relationship with him. Like,
Mhm.
what's your perspective on that? I mean, you've been playing with him for so long. Like, um, is that, is that something that, it doesn't always come with every coach, right? I think, I think it takes a kind of a special person, I think, to be able to develop relationships with their players, not only just, when whether they're in travel ball, but just, to develop so much that it's like, hey, I'm also going to go play for them, in
Mhm.
college now that he moved into that role. Like, how? I mean, talk to me just a little bit about like just the relationship you've kind of built with him, over the years.
John Nelson has had a lot of faith in me. He's pushed me past my limits, and it's helped me be the person I am outside of softball and in softball. He's always there for whoever needs it. He keeps it light and fun. We can have our serious moments, and we know we need to be serious, but he always pushes you to be the best person you can be.
Absolutely. Well, I mean, that coaching staff, I mean, feels second to none. So continue to kind of build that out, and so it'll be exciting to
Mhm.
see, not only what you guys do at the end of the year, but ultimately, the um what you build over the next 3 or 4 years. So now, the emojis. So you had, the tongue sticking out, like the raised eyebrow, and then the salute. So why did you go with those
Yeah.
three?
I'm a very non-serious person when it comes to like being outside of softball. I like goofing around a lot. My best friend can back me up on that one. I like fun. I like crazy. And the salute, I just like it. Like if someone says tells me something, I just like, yes, sir. Like I'm always I don't know, I like keeping it fun because that's what life's about, having fun with it.
Well, another fun thing is, did you bring your glove by chance? Do you have it with you?
Yes, I did.
Yeah.
Yes, I did.
So talk through that a little bit.
Okay, so for the right here, I have the Viking head. And then I have FSU and breathe because sometimes I hold my breath when I'm catching. I get like frustrated or something and I just have to remind myself to breathe. And then FSU, it's something we started with Havoc, but it's just a good mentality to have like come ready to play, be the best person you are. On this side I have a Puerto Rican flag because I am Puerto Rican and my childhood we would always go to Chicago and go to Puerto Rican parades and just have a bunch of fun.
I like it. Now, is there any good like Puerto Rican restaurants like in the area?
I haven't found one, but I love my dad's cooking. I always tell him he should open up a food truck, but we'll see where that goes. I just love his cooking.
As soon as because I saw I watched the video earlier in the year, when everybody was doing
Mhm.
the glove, reveals, and I saw that, and it put me back about 10 years. A friend of mine, she was actually my recruiter when I lived in Colorado. She
Mhm.
had stopped recruiting and opened up a Puerto Rican food truck. It was called the Reto Puerto Rican food truck. And I don't know if she's still, I haven't talked to her in a few years, but like,
Yeah.
they had this online website. You could track her truck where, I mean, they were all over Colorado.
Yeah.
And I remember like, you know, people were always commenting on like Yelp and trying to figure out where she was at and where she was going to be. So, I know they were, she was at one point, like, I think voted, one of the top food trucks in Denver. So, um, yeah, I was curious when I saw that. I was like, man, I wonder if there's any good Puerto Rican like restaurants kind of in the area, and I
Yeah.
really don't know. So,
Yeah.
um,
I
um,
usually lean on my dad's food.
yeah, what's like the best thing he makes?
Mm, I really like his Puerto Rican rice. It's rice, green olives, which I pick out. I don't like olives, and then black beans. And I don't know. It's just I've had it for so long. It's probably like my favorite dishes or his enchiladas or tamales. I just love his food.
Now, do the parents get together and do any like tailgating, at the parking lot, especially around double headers? Do any of the families
Mhm.
do any of that?
We haven't yet, but I feel like we're going to for senior night. I think we should. It's just hard because of the parking lot being so full because there's either track going on or something like that. So I think for senior night, we might set up a big like open, like close it off for people so we can maybe grill or cook or whatever it is. I know for blue and gold we did something like that. Someone grilled for us and it was amazing.
Yeah, that would be that's something that I mean, it's easy with football, because it's kind of one day they have that parking lot reserved. But I know the
Yeah.
baseball team, they continue, the parents continue to talk. And I know, a lot of folks can't travel for every game, um,
Mhm.
but I think it's amazing when, parents can continue to get together and it's just a good like, parental bond, on top of um the bonds that the players make on the team. So
Yeah.
selfishly I wanted to know because I'm like, well, if your dad's
Yeah.
cooking or something, I might just have to sneak in and say hi, but
Yeah.
that was the real
Honestly.
reason. so so maybe I'll try and sneak over on that senior day for sure.
Yeah.
Um well, really lastly, you know, as I'm thinking about, your freshman year, you're maybe halfway through the season or so. What's just been, maybe your favorite memory, your best memory so far this year?
It would have to be the beach days or anytime we get on the bus because we goof around and play music as much as we want and we play what is it? It's some game and there's a killer, capybaras, and then there's like medics and stuff like that and that game really gets it going. The arguments we have about that game on who's who. And I think that's probably one of my favorite memories, just all having fun outside of softball and creating those bonds because being on that bus together, it can be irritating, but then we have more fun than that.
Yeah. Well, that Florida trip, that looked like that was a lot of fun.
It was so much fun. We had a bunch of fun. We we did great, and then Coach John put plenty of beach time in for to be fun outside of softball.
And that was just a great opportunity just to like develop bonds, get to know, folks even better. Cause you're just stuck on a bus for, gosh, I mean, how long was the bus ride? Cause you guys left from Tennessee down there and then you went to what,
Yes.
Atlanta and then down?
Yes. So we drove, trying to do the math in our head. I think we drove either 8 or 12 hours the first day, if I did the math right. And then so we played and then we drove the rest. I don't know how long it was, felt like eternity, but with the games it helped.
Yeah.
I know I was on the floor of that bus taking naps every now and again, and then I'd wake up to them playing that game, screaming, arguing who killed who, and it the bus rides are definitely a way to like create those bonds, like we said earlier.
Well, I love it. Well, I think that's a good kind of spot to wrap things up. So good luck against Whitewater this weekend.
Thank you.
It was great to meet you as well. For the first time, and I think you ladies are killing it. Representing Augustana really well, representing yourselves even better. So, um, continued good luck obviously this season, and it's been great just connecting with the softball team and Coach Nelson
Yeah.
and the staff. So, um, looking forward to continued success and certainly would be nice to host and get in the national tournament. I think
Yep.
that's on everybody's radar,
Mhm.
and obviously the player of the year watch list. That'd be a nice little added
Yeah.
bonus, I think, as well. So, um, well, hey, well, Lena, appreciate you jumping on with me as well, and good luck this weekend. And we'll talk to you again here soon.
Well, thank you for having me. Have a good weekend.